No. Okay. So that may not have been the answer that people were expecting from me, and I suspect that my reasons for having that answer may not be obvious. So let me explain in my rambling fashion. In many ways, this is going to serve as something of a companion piece to the videos I did earlier about taking in the works of problematic creators and also separating the artist from the art. And my conclusion here is going to pretty much be along the same lines as that second one. So a quick reminder, I don't believe you actually can or should fully separate the artist from the art, and check the video for a refresher of why if you need to. Now, the thing is, in those two videos, I made the very deliberate choice to focus on works that had a clear single or primary creative force. That's why I mostly talked about authors and novels, because while there are some other people involved in those things, editors, cover artists, etc., it ultimately comes down to just one person. For the sake of simplicity, in those videos, I'd opted to not deal with more collaborative art forms like film, TV shows, or video games, where the sheer volume of people involved make it a lot more likely that there's going to be a problematic contributor somewhere in the mix. So that collaborative art form is what we're going to be tackling today by taking a look at the involvement of Rosario Dawson and Gina Carano in the Disney Plus TV show The Mandalorian, which recently dropped the trailer for its second season. So I'm going to try to bring you up to speed quickly on this because actually, despite the title and the thumbnail, I don't really want to dwell on the specifics of these two people and would much rather have a broader discussion. But I still need a leaping off point. So let's add some context. Now, late last year, Rosario Dawson had very troubling allegations leveled against her and members of her family by a trans man who'd been working for them. There were no criminal charges, but a civil suit is still currently working its way through the court system. Now, Dawson herself, probably wisely, has not really spoken publicly about any of this, which means that it's largely lapsed out of the news cycle. But for those of us who are members of the trans or LGBTQ plus community, it's put something of a shadow of discomfort over her casting as fan favorite character Ahsoka in the new season. Now, Gina Carano was already a cast member in season 1, and what happened with her, it's honestly kind of stupid. It's one of those things where hyperbolic reactions from her and others escalated what shouldn't have been a very big deal. But in brief, she made a somewhat tone-deaf joke about the habits of trans people and trans allies of putting their pronouns in their bios, and it just spiraled from there. If you want a full breakdown, Jessie Gender did a great video going over all of this in way more detail, and if you really want to know the full detail of everything that's gone on, I recommend checking that out. But what that means is that there are now 2 cast members in The Mandalorian who are giving those who care about trans rights and causes reason for pause. So in the wake of this, I've seen calls for their firing to start to pop up, which, to be clear, won't happen because the thing's largely already been shot, and also conversations asking the question that I put in the title: should they be fired? And as I said at the beginning, my answer personally to that is no. Now, my purpose here is not going to be to try and make the case for why you should come to the same conclusion that I have, but rather I just want to explain my own thought process and approach to all this, because I feel like the reason I got here isn't the reason I'm seeing other people arriving at the same conclusion. And frankly, the journey you take to your answer matters. Now, to my memory, I've never called for the firing or removal of an actor from a film or a TV show. I've bemoaned casting choices and performances. There's no question about that. But that's not what we're talking about here. Because this isn't a case of they didn't do a good job in the part. This is a conversation completely separate from the quality of their work. And I don't think calling for removals is something I'm ever really gonna do either, because Well, to ask for that is a way to duck out of having to make an uncomfortable choice, and I don't think it's healthy to duck out on those things. What I mean by that is, this isn't about cancel culture. At least it isn't for me. No, for me, the problem is that people want to buy or watch the things they want with as few complicating factors as possible. And, well, honestly, I get that. If there's a franchise you love, or a movie or a video game you've been looking forward to, especially if you've been looking forward to it for a long time, suddenly if there's a person involved who makes you uncomfortable by belief or alleged action, that can take the wind out of your enthusiasm and your enjoyment. It can spoil the fun. It's why many hardcore fans have a tendency to shoot the messenger whenever these things get talked about. I mean, you can look at how much hate gets thrown at Jim Sterling every time he brings up the verifiable fact that most big-budget video game developers exploit and abuse their workforce. People don't want to know because they just want to enjoy the things they want. And to my way of thinking, calling for the removal of an actor comes from a similar place. Granted, with the extra step of actually asking somebody to remove the complication for you, rather than just deliberately deciding to ignore it and pretend like it's not there. But when you ask for these people to be fired, you're asking for somebody to make it easy for you to just enjoy the thing. Because if the person in question wasn't there, you wouldn't have to think about it anymore. And this applies across the board. I don't care what your beliefs are. I guarantee you there is or has been a property that you liked or were excited for that involved at least one person you wish it didn't, because that person or their beliefs made you uncomfortable for whatever reason. And wouldn't it just be easier if they weren't there? Well, yeah. But I've said before, that's just not the world we live in. Honestly, asking these people to be fired isn't all that far removed from the people who wanted Disney to remake The Last Jedi and change all the plot elements they didn't like. It's coming from that same place of, you should make it what I want it to be. So no, I don't think they should be fired. But I also now have no plans to watch the second season of The Mandalorian, which is the kind of choice that sucks to make. It's the choice that you try to avoid by asking them to be fired. It's giving up something that might have brought you joy, and that sucks. Believe me, I know this stuff sucks. Being an adult, dealing with the complicated mess that is the modern world, really f***ing sucks. But you still have to do it. It's still your responsibility to make the choice to either support the work or not. It's not the responsibility of the team creating it to make that easier for you. And also, let me be clear, this isn't me saying, vote with your wallet, start a boycott, because it doesn't take much digging to very quickly realize that boycotts, they don't work. The vast majority of people who wanted the thing still want the thing and will still get the thing. So I'm not choosing to bail on the second season of this show in some misguided attempt to send Disney a message. I'm doing it for me. I'm not comfortable supporting this show with this cast right now. And maybe I'll feel different at some point in the future, in the years to come. But right now, I'm uncomfortable. And it's up to me to do what's best for my own comfort and well-being. It's not up to Disney to take care of it for me. I hope you've been able to follow me on this trip through my mind and my thought processes. And I just want you to understand, if you choose to watch the second season of the show, I'm not judging you. If you look at what's going on and decide that you're okay with watching it, that's fine. And I have no business telling you otherwise. If you still want to watch it, then watch it. If you want to bail, bail. Just don't go demanding other people make the world less complicated for you. Because That's not how anything works. Now, this particular video has no sponsor, so instead I'm going to quickly plug the Kickstarter for my fantasy novel, which at time of recording is coming tantalizingly close to hitting a stretch goal that would fund a professionally recorded audiobook version, which would then be made available to backers at every level. So maybe give that a look. Of course, I've also got a Patreon, which is what's currently paying my bills and keeping the lights on. And there's the usual stuff like share, subscribe, merch links, social media links, etc. down in the description. I hope if you have thoughts that you'll leave a comment, because comments on these kinds of videos have a tendency to spur on new topics of discussion for me. But you also don't have to do any of this. I mean, I'd appreciate it, but at the end of the day, you are the council. I'm just running the meetings. And until next time, this council is adjourned.